Some much needed Kai'Sa nerfs are dropping this patch. Camille is seeing a pretty massive buff, while Yasuo and Yone are being buffed as well. We've got all this and so much more to cover as we break down all the 13.15 changes and give you guys an update on the solo queue meta thanks to the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data. And just before we get started, if you want to improve fast to get the rank you've always wanted, then go to SkillCapped.com. Stop wasting your time grinding thousands of games only to see no progress. With SkillCapped, you'll uncover the secrets to climbing ranks fast that only take a few minutes to learn and can be immediately applied in your next game. The best part is, it's completely risk-free to try, as you're kept safe with our rank up insurance. If you don't significantly improve while actively using SkillCapped, then you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Get the rank you've always wanted by clicking the link in the description below. Alright, now back to the video, starting things off with the item and rune adjustments. Glacial Augment has become a staple on many tank supports, completely overshadowing Aftershock, so Riot will be toning Glacial down for 13.15. The zone slow is being reduced from 30 to 20%. The scaling on the slow, however, is being increased from 3 to 6% per 100 AP. AD ratio is up as well, going from 4 to 7% per 100 bonus AD. We don't expect a major shift in the support meta to occur as a result of these nerfs, but we may start to see certain supports deviate away from Glacial and back over to Aftershock now. Riot will be nerfing the Static Shiv with Night Harvester item combo by making it so that the Night Harvester passive now only triggers on auto attacks, direct spells, and pets. It will no longer trigger on indirect effects. This change is mainly being issued to try and continue to tone down the power of a Static Shiv rush on LeBlanc. Smite is being changed this patch so that it's no longer going to deal maximum damage to pets. Instead, it will now only deal 20, scaling to 160 damage. Nice little indirect buff to the likes of Yorick, Annie, and Ivern. Moving on to having a look at the top lane changes, first up is going to be Camille. Camille's AD growth is being increased from 3.5 to 3.8. R is seeing a buff as well, with its on-hit base damage going from 5 scaling to 15 to 20 scaling to 40. Level 6 all-in power becomes much stronger off the back of this buff, and we expect Camille to be one of the best solo queue top laners for 13.15. As a result, we'll be giving Camille the push from S into OP. Next up, we have a couple of buffs for Gwen. Gwen will become a little tankier this patch, as the first change has her health regen going from 8.5 to 9. The second change is to her W, with the resists being increased from 17 scaling to 25 to 22 scaling to 30. A pretty minor buff overall considering Gwen's rather mediocre spot in the meta, so we will not be shifting her up the tier list and she'll remain an average B tier pick. Riot's wasting no time at all in issuing some nerfs to Aatrox as they overshot on the 13.14 buffs. Q is going to see a partial revert from last patch, as the AD ratio is going from 60 scaling to 100% to 60 scaling to 90%. As you can see in the background clips, this is a pretty solid drop off in damage at 2 items. Despite this nerf, we have to keep in mind Aatrox is still going to be much stronger than where he was in 13.13, and we will not be moving him out of the OP tier for now. Yorick is seeing some very interesting changes this patch, as his R is seeing a bunch of adjustments. Yorick R will now regen 2.5 health per second. Yorick R will also now have 10 scaling to 50 armor and magic resist. Health of Yorick R is being changed from 350 scaling to 3300 plus 75% of Yorick's max health to 400 scaling to 1950. As you can see in the background clips, at level 6, Yorick R does have less health now, but with it gaining armor and magic resist, its actual tankiness is not going to drop off much. Some decent changes to Yorick, but not enough to push him into a powerful solo queue spot, so he'll remain in the top lane A tier. With all those changes out of the way, let's dive into the complete top lane tier list. OP tier for this patch will be locked down by Malphite, Aatrox, and Camille. With Camille moving up into the OP tier, it's going to indirectly push Fiora out and back down to S. Despite the champion being much more commonly played in the mid lane and jungle, it's looking like there's some viability to Naafiri top lane as well. Naafiri is being played much differently up top lane, as it's more of a bruiser setup, the most popular build being Eclipse into Black Cleaver. Rune Page is also different from that of mid lane, as it's Conqueror for the Keystone rune instead of Electrocute. Matchup wise, she's actually faring quite well into Aatrox and Darius, but losing to these face roll champs like Garen, Renekton, and Malphite. With Aatrox being prioritized as much as he is, it allows Naafiri to slot into the top lane meta as a pretty respectable pick. For our first rating of top lane Naafiri, she will be slotted into the S tier for 13.15. A few of the most valuable top lane bans of the patch include Fiora, Aatrox, and Malphite. Look into adding Malphite, Mundo, or Garen to your champion pool if you want to climb low elo the fastest. Taliyah has been more of a forgotten champion in recent patches, but these buffs are looking to bring her back. Q damage is going up from 45 scaling to 125 to 50 scaling to 230. E cooldown is being reduced from 18 scaling to 14 seconds to 16 scaling to 14 seconds. Lastly, E damage to monsters is up from 150 to 175%. All three changes added up are going to provide Taliyah with a solid boost for this patch, and we will be moving her up into the jungle S tier. Ivern is being hit with a bunch of nerfs as Riot is trying to tone down the Night Harvester build while keeping support builds about the same. Base magic resist is dropping from 32 down to 30. Magic resist growth is also going down from 2.05 to 1.3. W ally base damage is being increased from 5 scaling to 15 to 10 scaling to 30. E base shield is going up from 80 scaling to 220 to 85 scaling to 245. What will hit AP Ivern the most is the nerf to his E shield AP ratio, dropping from 75 to 50%. Daisy AP ratio is going to be dropping as well from 30 to 15%. Daisy duration is being reduced from 60 to 45 seconds. Daisy is also seeing some alterations to its health, magic resist, and armor, which should make it weaker early on but stronger later. All in all, supportive Ivern really doesn't get hit too bad by these changes, but the more fun way of playing Ivern definitely does. As a result of these nerfs, we will be giving Ivern a small push down the tier list from OP into S. Another tree on the chopping block for 13.15 is going to be Maokai. Q bonus monster damage will be sliced, going from 100 scaling to 180 to 80 scaling to 160. So nothing that affects the skirmish power of Maokai, but his clear speed is going to become a little bit slower. This kind of nerf may not seem like a big deal on paper, but it's definitely going to be felt, and we will be shifting Maokai down one tier from S into A. This one here is most definitely a pro play focused nerf as Sejuani is being hit. W total damage is dropping from 50 scaling to 230 to 30 scaling to 210. For a pretty spammable spell, losing 20 damage at all ranks is nothing to scoff at. For solo queue specifically, Sedge is a jungler we would recommend putting less priority on right now, as she will be placed in the jungle B tier. After just one patch of coming back into meta for the first time in over a year, Shyvana is already being hit with a nerf. AD per level is dropping from 3.4 down to 3. Health per level is down as well from 109 to 104. Shiv had shot up to having one of the highest win rates for any jungler in gold and below, so these nerfs look to target her presence in low elo where games tend to last longer, and therefore scaling nerfs are more impactful. For diamond and below, we still expect Shyvana to be a great pick despite these nerfs, so we'll be leaving her in the S tier for now. Moving on to the complete jungle tier list, meta does not change a whole lot for 13.15. OP tier is going to consist of just two champions right now, being Kha'Zix and Rek'Sai. Definitely don't sleep on Taliyah this patch, as the buffs are going to put her in a really nice spot. One other small adjustment we're making is moving Diana up from B into A tier. Diana is still struggling to find good success in diamond and above, but for gold and below especially, she's performing much better due to the recent buffs, and since our tier lists are more catered toward what's best for diamond and below, we like her in an A tier slot now. A few junglers who are worth a ban for the current meta include Evelynn, Kha'Zix, and Graves. For low elo, a few of the highest priority picks for this patch are Rammus, Amumu, and Nocturne. Taking a look at all the mid lane changes, first up is Yasuo. Shield scaling is being changed so that you'll now have 30 extra shielding at level 3, 75 extra at level 6, and 125 extra at level 9. Will this change be enough to push Yasuo back into meta? Likely not, as we still expect him to be in the lower percentile of mid lane champions power-wise. At the very most, we could see him being worthy of an A tier position, but for now, we'll be leaving him in B. With Yasuo buffed, you can bet Riot won't be leaving Yone hanging, as they'll be issuing him a buff as well. W shield is going to be increased from 45 scaling to 65 to 55 scaling to 75. Sure, this is a buff, but is it really going to do very much in the grand scheme of things? Most likely not, and Yone will remain in the mid lane B tier as a result. With Riot reducing the damage to smite on pets, Riot will be nerfing the durability of Tibbers. Annie R is going to have its health lowered from 1300 scaling to 3100 to 1150 scaling to 3500. AP ratio is down from 75 to 50%. The way that Tibbers' health along with its magic resist and armor scales is also being altered. Looking at the background gameplay comparisons, we can see that Tibbers is losing a decent chunk of health there at level 6. It's tough to say how impactful a change like this will be, but our initial expectations are that it won't affect Annie all that much, and we'll be leaving her in the mid lane S tier. Moving on to the mid lane tier list, we have very few moving parts for 13.15. Neeko and Talon rise above as the two OP tier mid lane champs. The only notable adjustment we'll be making to the tier list is moving Kai'Sa down into C tier. Direct nerfs this patch are going to hurt, and especially with her base health dropping, that's going to negatively affect her in mid more than bot due to assassins being played in the role. A few of the highest priority mid lane bans of the patch include Zed, Neeko, and Fizz. A couple mid laners who thrive much more in the lower ranks are Malzahar, Aurelion Sol, and Annie. Caitlyn has been a bottom of the barrel ADC in recent patches, so a few much needed buffs are on the way. Passive crit chance ratio is going from 1.2 to 1.3. Our crit chance ratio is up from 2.5% damage per 10% crit to 3.5% damage per 10% crit. Buffs are aimed at bringing back and solidifying crit builds on Caitlyn, as lethality setups have actually been outperforming in recent patches. With that said, the buffs are pretty light, and we don't see them significantly increasing Caitlyn's solo queue power, so she will remain a B tier pick. Not much of a surprise to see Kai'Sa on the chopping block, as she has eclipsed a 40% play rate in 13.14. Base health is dropping from 670 to 640. Q damage per missile AP ratio is going down from 30 to 20%. W cooldown reduction after evolution is being reduced from 77 to 75%. These nerfs look to bring down the power of the Nashor's build on Kai'Sa, so crit setups become indirectly stronger now. As a whole, we don't expect Kai'Sa to completely fall out of meta due to these nerfs, but she won't be a top tier pick anymore and will be placed in our ADC A tier. So just 2 direct changes to ADC for this patch, which means the meta will stay quite intact to how it was in 13.14. Our 2 OP tier ADCs who are cut above everyone else include Ashe and Miss Fortune. A few ADCs worth a ban for the current meta are Kai'Sa, Ashe, and Ezreal. To climb out of low elo from ADC, Miss Fortune is definitely the best option, but Ashe and Twitch are pretty good as well. Some much needed Nami buffs are penciled in this patch, with her Q base damage being increased from 75 scaling to 295 to 90 scaling to 310. Passive movement speed is up as well from 90 to 100, while the AP ratio is going from 20 to 25%. Since Riot are buffing the skilled part of Nami's kit with the Q change, it's not really going to have a massive effect on her solo Q strength. If E or W damage were to be buffed, it would translate much better due to the damage being unmissable, but Q buffs are a bit underwhelming for the average Nami player. We definitely don't expect her to gain much power off the back of these buffs, so Nami will remain in the support B tier. Some changes to Heimer's R turret are being issued this patch, as Riot will be adjusting the health, armor, and magic resist of it. The health of the turret is being changed from 850 scaling to 1450 to 725 scaling to 1525. AP ratio on turret health is being altered, going from 25 scaling to 200% to a flat 50%. Turret armor is being increased from 10 scaling to 80 to 30 scaling to 90. Turret magic resist is up as well, from 25 scaling to 65 to 30 scaling to 90. Looks like a very power neutral change overall, so Heimer will continue to lock down a spot in the support S tier. Just one adjustment is being made to the support tier list for 13.15, as we are moving Zyra up into the OP tier with Rel and Rakan. Buffs last patch have proven to be extremely impactful for Zyra, especially for Diamond and below, so she's now one of the highest value carry supports for solo queue. Since we've only got room for 3 slots in the OP tier, Blitz moves down into S as a result of Zyra moving up. The carry power of the support role really couldn't be better than where it's at right now, as we have champs like Zyra and Xerath in amazing spots, while high-impact engaged supports like Rakan, Rel, and Nautilus are also insanely powerful. If you're going to ban out a support in 13.15, the best bang for your buck includes Nautilus, Blitzcrank, and Rel. Our top 3 low elo recommendations for support feature Heimerdinger, Zyra, and Rel. So that wraps up the 13.15 tier list, but if you want to improve fast to get the rank you've always wanted, then go to SkillCapped.com. With premium courses for every role and skill taught by the best players, SkillCapped is the perfect platform to help take your game to the next level. Take our wave control course. While you wait for your next game to start, you can learn freezing, fast pushing, slow pushing, bouncing waves, the list goes on, all in just a few minutes to maximize your improvement rate. Or maybe you just like seeing your opponent's health go to 0. Then you'll love our trading course. We even have a skill test at the end so you can see how good you really are. Players just like you are leaving 5-star reviews and raving at how helpful they are. That's not all we offer though, as every week we release 10 brand new Smurf commentaries where a challenger player teaches you how to climb out of the exact rank you're stuck in. If you're looking for something more personal instead, then we got you covered with one-on-one coaching from our trained challenger experts. All this seemed too good to be true? Well, don't worry, we're backed by a rank up guarantee. If you don't significantly improve while actively using SkillCapped, then you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below and get the rank you've always wanted. Thanks for watching everyone, good luck in solo queue, and we'll catch you back soon.